Welcome to Bow Ties, sometimes called myself, Ashley and Ed. Good evening, Ed.
Good evening, Ash. How's things this April evening?
I've already got it wrong anyway.
It's not this
But
afternoon, Ash. It's
no, yeah, I
afternoon, but
know,
it's
but we'll,
okay.
we'll keep it. Yeah, but then if we
Yeah,
keep it in, we'll keep that in. Then they won't think we were as mean, waking up everyone else on the other side of the world early. Yeah, so we'll keep it in. We'll keep it in. Yeah, cool. We'll keep that in. And the reason I introduce it as myself and Ed was because when we started Bow Ties Sometimes Cool, it was just us. And then in September 2022, a young James Silvester came to us. Oh no, we went to him actually. And we interviewed him. And that was because he was working as an editor on the Temporal Logbook 3, which was NAID Settled, which is about EU settlements. It's an EU settlement scheme, isn't it, James? Which I'm sure you'll probably allude to maybe later. And then sometime after that, he became the third bow tie. And we are gathered here today because he's at it again. He's editing again for another book. And with that, James, I'm going to hand over to yourself so you can introduce why we're here.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, chaps. I still don't know how you actually got me to be a third bow tie. I think I just lacked the social skills to say no.
I think so.
Just kept inviting back. Well, I am honoured to be so anyway. So thank you all. And God, time flies. 2022. Yes. Yeah. Back then it was a temporal book which I was doing for Pencil Tip Publications, which was all good fun. And we did a lot of Doctor Who stories in aid of Settled, as you point out, Ash, which is the UK-based charity for people caught up in the aftermath of Brexit and all the joy that brought. So EU nationals living here could remain living here. And we did. We've raised them. Do you know what? I think we've raised them about £700 out of that book, I think, in total. And it's still for sale, so head across and see what you like. But yes, even bigger and better news. Because again, I can never say no to Bob at Pencil Tip, who keeps asking for more books and things. And because for the last 35, 40 years, maybe, I've been a sucker for comic book fiction, all the movies that come out of comics, pretty much anything. And my favorite of them all um, was X-Men, and my favorite X-Men of all has been Rogue and Gambit. And this past year, well, last year now, um, after a after about 30 odd years, there was a sequel animated series released, or a continuation animated series released of the X-Men cartoon that was on screens in the 90s, which is known to the world as X-Men 97. And the team and Romy, as their relationship is affectionately known, has got a whole new lease of life. And I thought, well, do you know what? Seems a good time to actually write that Rogue Gambit story I wanted to write 30 years ago. And but nobody wants to listen to me, boring old man, with his stories. Oh, and there are so many amazing and talented writers and artists out there who might also want to do something. And I am beyond honoured that so many of them said yes. And believe me, all of the stories and all of the artworks are made. It's amazing. You're gonna love it. And I'm even more honoured that so many of them are here today. Big shout hello from everyone, please.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
It is a it is a joy. I'm over the moon. You won't tell that, and please don't be put off by the fact that I'm rocking constantly back and forth. I do that with everybody. Um, I thought we'd try and keep this quite chatty. Usually, when we have guests on the show, Ed in particular, we'll pepper them with questions. Oh yeah, we're just fans. Let's just have a little bit of a chat about the books. I thought, first off, I hate to do this creeping death icebreaker, but if you wouldn't mind, if I'll come to you one at a time, just say who you are and what your contribution to the book is, and then we can launch into a bit of a chat. But to start off, this new book is called Rogue Gambit Burning House. Not quite sure why I called it that. I think there are several reasons, but I'll remember before I have to write the blurb. And this is going to be in aid of the Canadian Cancer Society. I've written a story for it. you don't need to worry about that one. You do need to worry about all of the stuff that everybody else contributes. So I'm going to come to everyone in turn first, and then we'll crack on. And first off, because this chat today is in aid of Romycon, that Punkaducky, who you might know her as, also Megan, is running, I think, in June. And thanks to our very own Karen, she got us this little gig here where we're going to chat about the book, and it's going to stream during Romycon. So, Karen, over to you first.
Oh, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. Hi, my name is Karen Santora. I am located in the Greater Toronto area, and my contribution for the book is roughly, I think it's like 12 or 13,000 word fic called Last Words. It's a fic that I already had kind of brewing in the background, but when this project was announced, so I figured it was a really good jumping off point to have it included. And honestly, I was really excited and honored to be part of this project because I've been part of this community for so long, and I'm just really excited to have a bigger part of it now.
Oh, great stuff. We are delighted you've let us have this story because it's a belter. First one I edited as well because you were really quick off the mark with this one. You think you got it to me within about a week. So that was great.
I definitely am one of those people. It's like, if I can get something done sooner than later, I will definitely get it done sooner.
Oh, it's very appreciated. Thank you. And next up, we have unique, I think, amongst the contributors. We have the wonderful Ludi, who's not only writing a story for us, the one I'm actually finishing editing today, by the way. I did some this morning, and I'll finish it off later. But it also is illustrating the cover for her own story as well. Ludi.
Hi, yeah, I'm Ludi. I'm based in the UK. I'm a librarian and a lecturer, and I've been a Romy fan for too many years. Probably the same as many people here, actually. But I've been writing Romy fanfic since about 2003. So yeah, it's great to finally write something. My story's called Never Just Dinner. And I don't know how I came up with this story, but I wrote a little sample for it when I submitted for this anthology, and it just popped in there. And so yeah, it's just under 10K. So it's not the kind of length of story that I'm used to writing. So I hope it goes down okay.
Oh, it's going to go down really well. And apologies, it's probably going to be this is I'm such a bad editor. You know, I'm supposed to strip words away. I'm actually giving you more words, so it might really be around 11K by the end.
Okay. No, that's fine.
It's going to be amazing and fantastic artist as well. So yeah, thank you, Ludi. And because I'm going in the dreaded clockwise order, Carrie, I'm going to come to you next. Now, Carrie is a phenomenal writer with a background like you wouldn't believe, and I'm just so grateful that you are gracing us with your expertise, skills, and a gorgeous story. So, Carrie, over to you.
Oh, I'm really flattered. Thank you. Yeah, I've been published traditionally for a number of years. Paranormal, it's all in romance, so paranormal, historical. But I've been out of the game for a number of years. I worked in editing for a while, and then about I don't know, something about episode 5 of X-Men 97 last year just reminded me that this was such a formative part of my youth. 16 years old and watching this with my best friends in the animated series, and my first trip to a comic book shop, X-Men 24 was on the shelves. So I have a t-shirt right now, the clinched cover. I mean, I was sunk from literally day one. It was on the shelves my first day in a comic book shop. And so in an odd way, then this coming back to the X-Men has also been me coming back to writing. It's been my first project that I've worked on in a number of years. And so I'm really, really excited to be back. James praises me, but it's like, no, this is my return, and it feels like a homecoming. So my story is The Kids Are All Right. And it is Rogue and Gambit get more than they bargain for when they meet their children from an alternate universe. So I bring in the Chris Claremont story from the 2000s, where he wrote Rogue and Gambit as an older character had children. And so our Rogue and Gambit 616, they get to meet those kids, and it's a little crazy.
It's amazing. It's fantastic. I can't wait for everyone to read it.
It was very fun. It was so much fun. And like Ludi said, this is a length that I've never really written before. Short story, 10, 11,000, whatever words were in. So that was another challenge, was trying to keep my world building small. Like, just get in, get out, do the story, make it good. So yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
And we're happy you are as well. Joey, on to you next, please.
Okay. My name's Joey. I'm from Canada. I've been same thing with everybody else. I've been in love with Rogue and Gambit for yeah, probably since I was like 12 or 13 years old. And I was actually reading a different comic book. I was actually reading Ghost Rider at the time, and it crossed over into X-Men. So I had to go get a couple of issues, and it was that very first panel of seeing Rogue talking to Belladonna about that infamous mole, and uh, I'm like, I really want to know more. So I, like, next month probably bought up whatever X-Men was still on the shelves, and probably everything back then was, you know, I think that was like 7, 8 X-Men titles. So I like just bought everything down the way and just started collecting Uncanny, and fast forward many, many years later, and here I am. I have my bachelor's in fine arts. I've always been interested in drawing. I've been doing commission art since I was 16 years old, mostly murals, but I do watercolors and acrylics. But lately, when I was thinking, I really want to get back into doing more drawing, just even for myself, I didn't know what I really wanted to focus on. And then I'm like, I just got back into seeing where Rogue and Gambit were, and all of a sudden they're married. And I'm like, I missed all of it. And yeah, that's where my muse took me. So I'm just so excited to be part of this, um, uh, for many, many reasons. But one of the big ones is thank you so much for choosing the Canadian Cancer Society. My mom passed away from cancer a couple of years ago. And I know she would be really proud of the fact that not only is the book dedicated to it, that finally one of my hobbies is kind of like worthwhile, but that I actually get to contribute it. So thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. That's really touching. I'm glad it's not glad, but it's nice that it has that personal connection for you. I'm also going to just point out, I know you're going to take a screenshot. Your hair is amazing. I love it.
Yeah, this is like 25 years old, 30, almost 30 years old. So
I keep thinking, well, fortunately, I'm graying now, so I might be able to get my own Rogue streak at some point, before too much longer. Again, amazing contributor. Thank you, Joey. And by no means least at all in any way, we have the astounding Jackie. Over to you, my dear.
Hello. I'm Jackie. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. Like the rest of the people here, I probably came in around that same time when, X-Men, the animated series was big. That's how I got introduced to comics. And my sister got this big grab bag of Marvel comics one Christmas, and 24 was in there. And I mean, it was like, once I read that, I was hooked, and I've been following Rogue and Gambit like on and off ever since. And like when Kelly Thompson came and did her little mini series for them, that kind of just pulled me back in to, full-time reading after, a few years off and just mostly reading fanfic on and off. I didn't try writing my own fanfic until like more recently. That's kind of a new development. I'm actually more of a science girl. I've been working in cancer research, gene sequencing, and kind of that for about 20 some years. So writing is not my normal forte. It's kind of something different for me, but it's been really fun to get into writing fanfic. And so I'm extremely honored to be part of this book and really excited that it's going towards cancer research. And um, yeah, my story is kind of I wanted to try writing something in the like X-Men the animated series 97, kind of that in between world since we know so little about that time. So it's just, and since you are going with the burning house theme, I thought it'd be fun to do something that was kind of actiony, and we'll see how it goes.
It goes really well. It's fantastic. It's yeah, blimey, it's exciting. And my God, you're all so thirsty, aren't you? It's shocking some of the things you people are putting in here. I'm a middle-aged man. I have no idea what half of you are talking about. But it's great stuff. No, but it's a fantastic story. A really, really exciting tale, and some lovely cameos from characters people will no doubt remember. I am going to shut up for a while because everybody's bored of me already. Much quicker than usual, I expect, with so many interesting people on the call. But I'm going to throw this out for a general chat. Feel free, everybody, come off mute, talk. Doesn't matter if we jumble up or stop and start, whatever. One question to start us off proper, I suppose. There's a lot of comic book, cartoon fiction couples out there. Why do we think Rogue and Gambit have endured for so long and then inspire such loyalty from their followers?
It's just obnoxiously basic when you look at it. That when you think about how conflict is supposed to happen, so to speak, with characters that have that push-pull of romance, coming from a romance world, it's just so obvious when you look at it. You have a thief, that's someone who takes something that's not supposed to be taken, and someone he cannot take something from. He wants to touch her. He wants to, and he can't, literally. And so it's that classic contrast of, you pair the vampire with the vampire hunter, or the arsonist with the firefighter, and you whatever you do to make them the most extreme possible. And that's where the romantic conflict comes from. So Chris Claremont sat down one day and wrote, oh, these are cool people. But no, what he ended up doing was this classic, just the ultimate challenge for a guy who's never really had this much challenge before. He can take whatever he wants. He's a master thief. And here's this one thing he wants that he can't take. How does he go about getting what he wants without having to take it? And Rogue is this, and I don't know, from a personal standpoint, someone making that much effort, that's sexy. So that's where I'm coming from. But anyway, everyone else head out because I know there's so much to talk about with these two.
I think Carrie just said exactly what I was going to say. Like, the push-pull thing was exactly the words that was just going to burst out of my mouth. It's just the way that they have this connection, but they can't do anything about it. And the fact that he stays and he carries on, trying to pursue her despite never being able to, despite never knowing that there will never be any chance of them being physical together. That's so compelling. And for me also, when I was younger, it was a really it was just a really compelling kind of dynamic to me, because I was trying to figure out my own sexuality at that time, and I was now I identify as asexual, but and I didn't figure this out until I was well into my 30s, and so I was trying to figure out, like, I identified a lot with Rogue in one sense, in the way that she cannot be touched, or she feels like she cannot be touched. She tries to put up a barrier against the world, and a lot of the problem with her power set is that she consciously does not want to be touched, and that's why she's like, her power is permanently switched on because of that. So for me, I felt a lot of, I identified a lot with her, but yet there was also this kind of safe kind of love affair there, I suppose, with a man who really loves you and who you really love, but who can't touch you. So from from my perspective, that was something that was a dynamic, I suppose, that was really kind of a safe way for me to explore my own sexuality when I was younger. I don't know if that makes any sense. We're going to psychology here a bit, but I know a lot of I kind of lecture in fan studies and stuff, and in fan studies, there's a lot of this thing about why fan fiction is so popular, especially among young females. And I think it is because a lot of it is that it's a safe space for young females to explore their sexuality. And for me, Rogue Gambit was just the perfect way for me to do that when I was younger.
Yeah, I can kind of echo that sentiment quite a bit, because it's like, for me, like that was one of my first big ships growing up, because like I was like, the 90s was when I grew up, so it was very much one of those shows that shaped a lot of how I started to see certain relationship dynamics. Like you have characters in the show and in the X-Men in general that represent very different relationship types. Like you have Scott and Jean, and you have like Wolverine and his various, relationship exploits. But with Rogue and Gambit, there was always something about it where it's like you can vehemently feel this intense passion between them, and yet they can't do anything about it. And for me, it was like, I very much was that kind of person growing up where it's like, I want to love someone this passionately in my life. And it was just the way that I felt that was just so amazingly communicated through these characters. But I definitely started out the same way, as like I identified a lot with Rogue's character. And I think as I've followed the comics, as I got older, I much more started to identify with her level of trauma associated with her powers, because ultimately you start to realize that she's projecting something where it's like, I am trying to keep you at an arm's length because I care about you so much, because I don't want to hurt you. And it's like, but at the same time, that you're just hurting each other by doing that. And there was something really cathartic about getting to a point where they did, eventually get married, and now they're perfectly happy as a couple in the comics. And there's something just so satisfying to know that, like, yes, you can have all this baggage in your life, and you can still find that happiness with somebody who accepts that part of you.
And I think with piggybacking on what Karen's saying is the issue of consent. We weren't really talking about consent in the 90s, other than, be safe when you're walking home, those kind of, when we're talking about emotional consent in relationships, there was 16, and what did I know about what relationships looked like, or what I wanted to, just trying to survive high school. And so here's an example of that, like the passion, where that's the part that's so intangible. It's just what happened when we put these two together and they just exploded into everybody's lives. But the issue of consent, and it is him waiting and waiting all these years, never sitting in the background, really. He was always right there, all up in her face, saying, you are going to love me one day. You will be, home in harbor. We all know that. And so he's never passive about it, but he's waiting for her in the best sense, in the most active. You are welcome. You are loved. You are sexy. You're, strong and smart. He's always had so much respect for her. And so to wait for her in that way, which is, I don't know, active waiting, is that a thing? He's been actively waiting for 30 years. So you're right. When they finally got married, it was like, oh my God, it's been decades, but that's okay. We're fine now. But so I think that consent is so much of it, that he had to wait. He had to. And so it was a modeling, an excellent example of what it is to be wanted and respected. And I think that is something that other relationships have developed in comics in different ways. The way that this one in particular developed is what got me. And that's, and that's where I think where the loyalty comes from as well. Because I don't know, Romy fans, we will defend the hell out of these people and just to an obnoxious degree, in the best sense.
I think we've waited so long because they've waited so long. That's where the loyalty comes from, is that our loyalty is mirrored in theirs. So, yeah.
Absolutely. We have waited a million years, like 30 some years in some of our cases, just to see these two get together. But another thing about them is they kind of come from similarly difficult backgrounds as characters, where a lot of the characters have come from more stable backgrounds. Both Rogue and Gambit came from, either abandonment or being runaways, and were adopted into families where they were used. So they both have kind of a bad history of being in transactional relationships where they were only given love when they were providing something for their caregivers. You have Gambit in the Thieves Guild, and he was really only adopted because of his powers and what they thought he could do for them. And Rogue too, you have Mystique and Destiny who adopted her because what she could do for their group. And while I think both of their parental figures kind of came to love them, there's still that element of being used, and what they have in each other is not that, because they literally, Rogue literally can't be with him. There's no transactional relationship there in that sense. So that it's just purely the enjoyment of each other's company, especially early on. And they're not sappy is the other thing. Like, it's not that Scott and Jean where it's just so overly dramatic and sappy. It's like they're very real with each other, and it's often very comical. And again, you get a lot of that push and pull. Like, it's just way more enjoyable and, more realistic than a lot of those other relationships, I think.
I think I'm going to start off with at the beginning, they were visually different. I loved Rogue's look right away. And I think the two of them, as in a band of mutants like they were back in the 90s, sure, everyone's attractive, but and they didn't have a lot of besides Beast, they didn't really have any really physically different people. But Rogue's got the streak in her hair, and Gambit's got his dark eyes. I think that was an attraction to them, and I think that was just kind of that was the general attraction for me, just visually seeing them as different. And I think that calls out to a lot of people who maybe don't feel the same to a lot of other folks. And I think that just kind of perpetuates. They just got more and more interesting. Remy likes to cook, and Rogue likes to read, and they keep throwing out these weird Gambit things where he reads Harry Potter, or he really likes Star Trek, and we find out Rogue's really not that good of a cook, and Gambit's got these cats, and he's a cat guy, and I think they just become so real to people because they have these really weird idiosyncrasies, just these things that make them like normal people that you see at a con. And my husband asked me about this once. I don't want to be her, but I find them like friends. And that's why I just always wanted to know what happened, because, I feel like I kind of grew up with them. And I just feel like they're just the best friends, but I just want all the best for them. And I just wanted to see them happy. And anytime I see somebody happy like that, I mean, that's, I would want definitely something like that for myself. And I feel that they had a hand in shaping my ideas of what romance and a relationship would look like. And yeah.
I think those are some really insightful thoughts, and obviously different perspectives, and I'll be able to come to myself. So it's fascinating. It just shows, I suppose, the wide appeal and why they appeal to everybody on so many levels. And we get very, as you were saying, very defensive of them. You saw that a little bit this last year with the whole Rogue Nito thing that was going on from the comics. I remember back when I was collecting them years ago, and they had, after that spell that I just read in your story today, Ludi, when you're referring to them living in that nice little town all those years ago after Extreme X-Men, and then they had the business with death and breaking them up. And I kind of stopped reading comics for a long time after that. I thought, Why? And that's why break them up? I don't want to see them broken up. I just want to see them happy. And I didn't come back to it until I found out they'd got married. So we do. I sometimes think I'm being unfair and irrational. Creative writers, they're going to have different ideas on where to take them, but we all just seem to get very upset when bad things happen to those two.
I think it has to do with what we was talked about, that they've been through so much, and they reflect a lot of our own aspirations and hopes, and reflect our own traumas that we're having to hope that there's some kind of happy resolution to. That now they're married, it's like, don't touch. And I think what's fabulous right now is with Gail Simone writing Uncanny, is that from everything that I've seen of what she's discussed of them and her hopes for their future and everything, is that she respects their love as well. And I think that she's been a really interesting writer to bring on, as far as it seems like they were kind of shuffled to the background a bit during Krakoa. A lot of Krakoa was very about Krakoa, and some of the personal stories suffered a little bit. I thought it was a fascinating experiment, and definitely don't regret the way that X-Men expanded because of it. But I did miss Rogue Gambit, and I think that maybe some writers don't or didn't want to or weren't interested in trying to find out how to write conflict or interesting stories with two happily married characters. And, at the moment, Scott and Jean are broken up, and, they're still married, but she's being the Phoenix. She's literally somewhere else, and they're coping in their own ways. But Gail is taken with Uncanny, just they're in a swamp in Louisiana raising some random kids that showed up at their door, and Nightcrawler's there, so she's got her brother, and they've got Wolverine, who's practically her dad, and it's a family. And I think that is something that every Rogue and Gambit fan who reads comics now is just so happy. Like, they just get to have their ambitions and hopes in a very small sense, in a very personal sense. And for me, it's just been heaven. But it is that idea that they've come through so much, and Gail has been able to find, surprise, married couples can have issues. And I don't know why that's such a hard thing to fathom, but it's been remarkable. And so it's part of why I wanted to set my story when it was never any doubt that the one that I would write, they would be married. It was just sort of like, let's just see, they're happy, but we're still going to give them something to do. But it's that resolution of trauma. It's the resolution of them finding happiness. And so when people kind of like impugn on that, or, ship people with other folks, we start to get a little bit like, no. That's a latecomer to the game. You don't get us, no cutting in line, go. We already have, our outcome here that we want. And that's, I think, where we get a little bit defensive, maybe a little bit too much, but it's, I don't know, it makes sense in my head.
Yeah, seconded. Me too. Anyone wants to comment on that point before I start throwing questions at people?
Yeah, I can. I feel like the Romycon thing from X-Men 97, just to sort of lightly touch on that subject. I mean, I was definitely one of those people that when that was happening in the comics, when it came up in 97, I was not all that hard-pressed about it, honestly. I actually think that for the stage of the relationship that they're in, both in the show and in the comics at the time, I saw that as character development and character growth in a way for Rogue that sort of still showed that she was young and that she had yet to learn a lot about the world around her. I think for me, it's like that kind of touched a nerve for me because I had similar experiences when I was younger. And so I saw myself reflected a lot in those stories. And it doesn't necessarily mean that those things were okay, but at the same time, it's a very real story for some people. It's like that is part of your story. That's part of how you grew, and that's part of how you learned about more relationships, and you learned more about yourself to figure out just because something is easy and accessible doesn't mean it's the right fit for you, or doesn't mean that that's the person for you. And I kind of love that it gets demonstrated in the way that it was, because ultimately Rogue chose Gambit. It's like, even though she knew it was going to be hard, she knew it wasn't going to be perfect, she knew that ultimately he is the choice that she wanted to make. And that to me was very affirming and very like, it made something resonate in me, where it was just like, this just makes me believe all the more that their relationship is like my OTP till I die. It's like, it truly is like that ride or die mentality, where it's like, even when other possibilities come up, you still choose this person. I love that concept for them. And I think, but showing that there are these options, that there are these people who do come along in your life, and they present themselves in weird ways, in ways you can't always predict. I think the fact that they still always end up together is like, it's so heartening. It's why I love them.
Yeah,
I'll disagree with a word of that. Sorry, go on.
A lot of the kind of backlash against Rognito last year, with X-Men 97 especially, I felt like it was because, a lot of people, especially younger women, were just really triggered by it, because they can understand that dynamic between a younger man being pursued by a younger woman, sorry, being pursued by an older man. And I think for some of us, there was that element of grooming there. And I don't know whether it was intentional, and I don't want to get into that whole debate here, because it's a huge thing. But some of us could really kind of connect with that in ways that were confronting. And I did feel a lot like that was why there was this huge kind of internet furore around it. And yeah, it did get really nasty out there in places. I just had to back away, because I did find it a bit, yeah, triggering.
Yeah, it was definitely one of those few moments in fandom where I was very much like, I think this conversation is not productive at a certain point. It was just like, there's a certain level at which it's like, I think that you're allowed to take certain narrative license depending on what you're trying to accomplish with the story. But I think for a lot of people, it didn't matter what the showrunners were trying to do. It didn't matter what the writers were trying to do. It was the fact that this subject matter was involved in the show at all, immediately wrote it off. And I think for me, it was just disappointing as someone who's like, I saw myself represented in that. And it was like, that was very frustrating to experience a lot of that backlash, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I am not a Rognito fan. Anyone who knows me knows I'm not a Rognito fan. But I'm not opposed to their relationship, and I haven't been opposed to it in the comics or the cartoon per se, because of what you were saying earlier, is that it's part of Rogue's growth as a character, her working her way or feeling her way through relationships and what they mean and what works for her. So I think it is a really interesting dynamic that her and Magneto have, as a kind of father figure that she looks up to. And Rogue seems to have a lot of things about father figures, her relationship with Professor X as well. And yeah, I find that really intriguing, because it's something that I see in my own life as well. So I've always found that element of her relationship with Magneto, much as I don't really like it, I find it really icky. Just, yeah, very compelling in a way. And I can understand why people like that ship, but it's definitely not for me.
I think piggybacking on what Karen said about personal growth as well, is that there is a moment, I think, in people who are trying to be better and more self-aware, that if you have, trauma in your past, if you've been, done wrong, we talked about the transactional relationship with their parental figures. The moment you realize that you have been hurt, but you can cause hurt to other people, is a humbling moment. And I think that, Rogue has understood for a very long time that she can hurt people physically, but there have been moments where she's had to realize that she can hurt people emotionally as well. And so I think it's most crystallized in the relationship in X-Men 97. The damage that she, he's just been her Cajun or swamp rat, this is a, lighthearted thing. And for her to realize that she can do actual damage, and then make that leap, that this is going to be more difficult but also worth it. That, for a narrative and a storytelling, that was priceless. So it was so well done. And then obviously, the tragedy of her not being able to tell him that, you're my choice. We'll get to that eventually, but that's just, I think, the consequences of being a fan of that couple is you're just going to have to wait a little bit.
Absolutely. I'm really touched as well that people are sharing so many personal connections to these characters. I think a lot of it comes through in the stories and the artwork you guys are producing anyway. You can feel that, but I know that talking about these things helps somebody. Some of people are going to be listening to this one at Romycon, and I think for the things people are saying, they're going to help other people in those situations. So I'm personally grateful that people are being so open. It's really good of you. Thank you. I suppose awkward question now, and it's kind of bringing things back to the book and what we're doing and all the rest of it. But so a couple of you alluded to it before in terms of the constraints of the medium. What have you found the most challenging and rewarding parts of your contribution to this little project? I want to go to you, Jackie, first, because you're in my top corner now that Ash has rearranged all the screens.
I mean, the most challenging is definitely staying in the word count. It seems like, you have a set idea and a set outline, and you start to write it, and it's so hard not to want to chase those little tangents and, be really self-indulgent and spend a whole long section just, really living into a moment and getting all those little details in there. And you realize, you got to keep that story moving because you only have so many words to use. You're sharing space with everybody. So yeah, definitely keeping in the word count was the biggest challenge, which I didn't 100% accomplish, but hopefully I stayed close enough. But the most rewarding is just being, part of a group and being with all these other fantastic writers and being able to tell the story about these two characters that I love so much, and kind of get to be a part of their story now, and not just, reading their stories, but actually getting to tell a part of their story is definitely the most rewarding for me.
I'm really pleased to hear you say that. Do you think you managed to get everything you wanted to say? I mean, I did for everyone to know. I've sent Jackie a edit, so I'm kind of expecting you to refer to me as the hated James from now on. But I think you did. I think you've told us an amazing story, and don't worry about word count. We'll get there. But did you think you got through everything you wanted to say?
I think the essential things. There's always more details you can add. You can always expand a scene. I think maybe that's the thing with fanfic, is you can be super self-indulgent and kind of add things into scenes you don't need. Whereas writing something concrete like this, you have to really focus on what's important. So you can add those little self-indulgent moments and those little extra details because everybody loves those about characters. That's what makes them real. But you can't maybe go on and on for, several pages about something that's not essential to the story. But I think there will be some fun details and some little Easter eggs people will appreciate.
Well, there'll be plenty. And just before I shut up again, because I'm really interested in what everyone has to say on this, just because it's in my head. From an art perspective, Joey, entirely different medium. I'm not an artist, but you managed to tell a story in a picture in a great way. So it's the same question really for you, and how do you approach that as an artist? And I know you were working with authors, but what did you get out of this?
So it's kind of funny because it's almost like the opposite, and very similar, because it's super self-indulgent, like what you're saying, Jackie. It's I get to just like hone in on that one moment for hours. It's just really like just grab onto it. Like it's on repeat in my brain. So I had asked for like a couple of key moments from my author, and um, uh, she gave me kind of like breakdown of a couple of moments, and I just kind of picked the one that I felt like I could really grab onto something there, and just really grab onto whatever emotion was there. She had said, "Oh, maybe there's one other one that I think that would be really good, but it's going to be really spoilery, so I'm not even going to tell you about it." So I'm gonna cut that one right out. Oh, shoot, that one actually would have been really good, but I really like the one that I chose, and yeah, like you just talk to yourself the whole time over and over, like what's going on in this scene, how am I feeling in this moment, and you just kind of get stuck in that cycle, or at least I do. And yeah, so I think that's part of what really kind of gives me that emotional connection is the fact that I'm just spending so much time in that moment with those characters while I'm drawing it. And then the most rewarding part is to maybe read the finished scenes afterwards and really see the two really come together because I sent um, a sketchy preview off, and it inspired her to come up with a little bit more of the scene. So it's a real collaboration at that point, and it's just that's quite exciting to see one play off the other. So I find that really rewarding.
Oh, lovely, fantastic. Yeah, it's fascinating to me because when we're writing stories, we've got all these words to play. Well, maybe not all of these words, maybe only 10,000 words to play with these things, but we've got all that scope to set scene and do the rest of it. But as an artist and drawing that picture, as you say, you're in the moment, you're feeling it, you're living it, and the finished piece portrays everything that 100,000 words can say. So I'm really amazed with yourself and everyone who's drawing for us. So thank you. But equally, Carrie, Ludi, Karen, same question to the three of you about what you've managed to get out of this, what you enjoyed, and what was challenging.
I think for me, it's like the challenge wasn't necessarily the word count. I'm pretty comfortable working in like the shorter one-shot style at this point. I've realized I'm not terribly great actually at writing a multi-chapter fix, mostly because I very much am one of those people where it's like once I've written the scene that was the initial inspiration for writing the fic in the first place, once I hit it, it's just like, well, I don't feel a need to finish it. I'm very bad at finishing a lot of my stories that are multi-chapters. So this was actually very much in my wheelhouse. But the thing that I think was really challenging, though, was there was a lot of times where I felt like I was getting into certain cliches or falling into certain traps of writing where I was like, I really didn't want it to be super cliche. I didn't want it to feel like this is something that people have read before. And so having to find those ways of like, how do I make this more specific and geared towards these characters and this universe, I think was the biggest challenge for me. But the most rewarding part, honestly, is going back and forth with you, James, was the while we were doing the editing, because like I've never had anyone actually read through my writing before in an editorial kind of way. So it was the first time that I'd had a lot of that back and forth about some of my writing. And I initially thought I would be a lot more anxious about it, about like, someone critiquing my work. And like, obviously I feel like we're all somewhat anxious about that kind of thing. But in reality, when I was getting those notes back and I was seeing what you were saying, I was like, it actually inspired me to write more stuff for it. It got me to add things to it that I never had thought to add before. And so I actually, again, like Joey was saying, it became genuinely very collaborative. And like, I was very excited that like, oh, this thing that I was nervous about this whole time, it's like actually is probably one of the better aspects of working on this.
Well, that means the world to hear. Thank you. I always hated editors, hated them. So I won't do it that way. So I'm really grateful that it worked for you and was useful for you. So thank you. And you really didn't need many edits from me. It's a great story. Carrie, Ludi, same question, please.
Well, thanks. Yeah, glutton for punishment that I am. I actually had 2 contributions for this anthology, and I'm not sure how that happened. But yeah, I was writing a story and doing an illustration for it. And I think the biggest challenge I had was churning out two things at the same time and not freaking out. So I concentrated mostly on the story, which, as I said before, uh, was at a word length I'm not used to writing unless it's like an academic article or something. Like I'm used to writing really, really short one shots or like trilogy sized epics. So this was like at a yeah, a length that I wasn't used to. So, but I don't know, in with academic writing, they're really, really big on word length and I mean word count. So I'm really used to editing things down, and so I was editing in my head as I was going along, and it was a really weird process because I was like, oh, I've got this kind of this word count that I have to meet, and so it's not a process that I'm really used to for creative writing at all. I'm used to just letting loose and just going on and being self-indulgent. So I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, James, because I haven't had your editors now. I actually feel that you're giving me more words to play with. So, yeah, this is exciting for me. So by the time I'd stopped freaking out over the story, I was like, oh my God, I have like 2 days to draw something again. And I had all these ideas for different scenes that I wanted to write. And then I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna do a kind of pin-up splash thing. And I was actually, really pleased with how that turned out because I did it very two-tone color wise, and I was like, I don't have time to get into lots of color, and it actually looked really good, and even though I do say so myself, and so yeah, I was really pleased with what I managed to do in a short amount of time. But I think so those are the challenges, but I think the most rewarding thing is just actually getting to know more about the writing process, challenging myself in a kind of format that I'm not really used to, and also just getting the chance to work on this project with such amazing people is just so exciting, and I can't wait to read everyone else's, and I can't wait to see everyone else's pictures, and yeah, that's the best thing ever.
Yeah, I am super curious about everybody else's stories. Like I envy James at this point because I think he's, reading everybody's ahead of time. So the ultimate sneak peek. For me, I think the challenge was I had bit off a really ambitious idea, bringing in characters from two different universes, trying to figure out how, we get duplicates of people. So the logistics of trying to bring in this kind of canon events it was Chris Claremont's The Fall that he did. So I had to do research. Oh no, I have to go and read comic books. What a tragedy. Specifically looking for, Rogue and Gambit bits. I'm terrified of that. No, it was fantastic. It really was the best assignment. But then trying to find that balance between events, the action, and the emotional beats, because we're all here for the emotion. I think that whatever window dressing all of us have come up with as far as plot and events, it's there to, it's a cradle for the emotion, basically. Here, this is what everybody is reading these stories for. And so for me, in 10,000 words, to try and figure out, that balance, make sure we get the action, the characterization, and the romance all together. That's it took a bit of time, but like I said, it's been a marvelous process and something that I feel like I got close to what I wanted to say. We'll see what James has to say about it. But for me, it's feeling like the accomplishment of it is just a fun thing. Whenever you finish any project, it can be, 1,000-word fic, it can be a novel. You hit the end of it and it feels like, whatever struggle you went through, absolutely worth it. So I can't wait to see how it all turns out for everyone.
That's lovely. No, that's really lovely to hear from all of you. And again, it's come through in what we've been talking about, and the experiences everyone's been sharing, how much of a personal connection we all have with these characters, and it really does come across in the contributions everyone's provided. And a couple of people have said it really is a collaboration. I absolutely hate it if people are sat there dreading me emailing them notes and edits, because it's your voice. Anything I send you, if you've not had them already, they're suggestions. They're suggestions only. You don't have to. If you think I'm talking nonsense, then tell me. It's fine, and we can chat it out if we need to. And if you just want to ignore everything I say, that's fine too. So it's all good. It's your voice. It's just there for us all to get the best book together that we can. And I will say, and this isn't blowing smoke at anyone, because I told Bob this as well in an email, having worked on a few collaborations in the past, short story collections, and having edited that last one, I really never have worked with such a great group of people before, because yeah, some people, sometimes, not to mention any names, you get people who are very established who don't want to collaborate, shall we say, in quite the same way, and who are doing it. You know, they'll write 14 of these stories per month, and you just get whichever one is in their inbox at the time, and there's no real love going to it. Whereas with everybody here, everyone is so enthusiastic and engaged. You know, they'll email me questions, or they'll you know, we'll have little chats about particular things. But for once, probably the only time everyone's on the same page, and it's great. It's really, really rewarding for me personally. So, you know, thanks to all of you, and everyone who's not able to join the call. So it's great. And a general word out there, because again, conscious that Romycon fans and attendees hopefully will be listening. Fan fiction gets a lot of derision, very, very unfairly. You know, it's simultaneously at the moment easier and harder than ever to become a writer. Traditional publishing and stuff like that, the roots feel very much far removed from you when you're starting out. You can get online, you can write a story, and it can be there. And you get all sorts of horrible voices online saying it's not good enough, or it's this and that. Don't listen to any of them. Fan fiction's fantastic. I personally know a lot of people who has started in fan fiction, including me, and then gone on and been published. On the back of it, it's a fantastic way to learn your craft. And you know that every word that anybody writes on these things, and any art piece that any artist puts up on there, it's been done with love by someone who cares about it. So if you want to start writing your own fiction or drawing your own artwork, just do it. Just do it, and don't care what anybody says. That's me off my soapbox for now. I am conscious I have taken up the time very early in the day because of my horrendous miscalculation of the timings, which I shall put down to my various brain deficiencies of all of these fine people. So I'm just want to invite everyone, if there's anything, any final message you want to say to anybody in the world, but especially people who are logging onto Romycon when it comes out, please, now's your chance.
Keep sailing that ship. It's the best in the world. Join our pirate ship.
Yeah, I want to echo that. It's like, this truly is like one of the best fandoms that I'm a part of. Like, I've been a part of various ones over the course of my life, and I really think there is nothing else like Rogue Gambit shippers. I think we're just a very unique bunch where it's like this, a lot of what we do is very much driven just by love and admiration, and I'm just so enthralled to be part of this amazing community. And same thing with what James was saying. Like, I think fan fiction is actually quite validated in a lot of current media. The fact that there's a lot of IPs happening in various film, television, and it's a lot of people riffing on very old stories that maybe are just now, you know, losing their copyrights. It's like everything is shared ideas, everything is based on something. Fan fiction is no different than any other piece of fiction. It's just what isn't established, I think, is the only differentiator. But I've seen amazing fan fiction that is far better than published traditional fiction. And I think that that should be honored more, and people should feel more confident about being fan fiction writers.
I was just going to say that I hear it here, and I hear it, on the Discord and online. We've all said it that this is best, uh, the best fanship to be a part of. Everybody is supporting. Everybody just welcomes everybody. Whether you have Magneto opinions or not, we still welcome you to the conversation. We might tell you you're wrong eventually, but we still welcome everybody, and everybody has fun together, and everybody talks together, and everybody like this is yeah. I wasn't even gonna say like if you're a romantic, this is where you belong. But I think if you have hope for any relationship, this is where you belong.
I am so grateful to be here, and also, with Karen coordinating it with Meg to get us, a place at Romycon. It's insane to me to think that when I started on this journey, we had Usenet groups, maybe the idea of finding other people who enjoyed the fandoms that you enjoyed. It was so much harder. I had my best friend, and we were it pretty much. And especially being a teenage girl going into a comic book shop, it was not the most inviting necessarily. I happened to get really lucky in my comic book store where I grew up. They were great guys. But there were a lot of issues in 90s comics that didn't make it exactly welcoming. And it was difficult to find other people who geeked out about the same things that you did. And I wasn't even going for niche stuff. We're talking X-Men and Star Wars. How hard is it to find anybody? No, but it was difficult. We're talking the early 90s. And so the idea that now, X years later, who knows, I can't do math that hard. Here we are in, having such community, Discord and online, and just it's been fantastic to find all these people who are kind of like, having the same sort of emotional journey to get to this point and be a part of that and contribute to it. It's just been fantastic. And I cannot wait to read the anthology, and I can't wait to, hear everybody's contributions to Romycon. So anyway, just me babbling on about community, and community is fantastic, and this community especially. So
yeah, I'll just echo what Carrie said. It's been amazing watching this fandom grow and change over the years, and I'm amazed with 97 coming out, like how many young new Rami fans there are, and they bring something new, like a whole different energy to it, which is really exciting. And there's so many angles you can look at for these characters, with fanfic especially, and that's the beautiful thing. Like there's no barrier for entry to fanfic. So if you want to write, just go ahead and give it a try. And you can take any angle you want. You can put them in any world you want, any alternate universe, or you can write in universe. So yeah, it's just, yeah, a welcoming fandom and a real fun fandom. And I'm excited that we're finally having our own con, and hopefully maybe one of these days we'll be able to all meet in person. But it's a pretty amazing fandom that we're, all across the world. And we share this one love for these characters.
We do indeed. Wise words indeed. And there you have it, folks. At the moment, the ISBN release date is scheduled for early September. I'd like to get it in earlier if possible, but we will see how it goes. That's flexible, but there'll be all sorts of announcements and marketing, which I haven't figured out yet. So if any one of you find people on the call know anything about that world, please tell me. And keep an eye out. And all proceeds from this anthology, from our unofficial, unauthorized anthology, which I am obliged to inform you, will be going to, as we've said, the Canadian Cancer Society, and hopefully you will all rush out and get yourselves a copy. Before I hand back over to the gents, who I really do thank both of you, Ash and Ed, my co-host. This is kind of a special episode of our regular geeky podcasty show. We normally talk about Bond, Doctor Who, and horror films, and I did get you to watch the Blues Brothers once. That was good of me. I'm really grateful to you because I know comic book fiction really isn't your bag, either of you gents. So for you to take the time, it's been I appreciate it. Thank you for doing this. But before I do that, just a huge thank you to everyone here today. Every one of the contributors has not been able to make the call probably because of my ludicrous timekeeping arrangements. But all of you, it's an absolute joy. Thank you all, and thanks for being here today.
Well, do you know what, James? I don't think I can add much to that. Like you say, it's not our usual bag here on Bowties Sometimes Cool, but I cannot wait for this book. And now I'm intrigued. I'm going to get into this world. I think I need to. You're so enthusiastic about it. Your love for it is very clear. And that's got to be for a reason. It's got to be good. It's got to be good. So I usually say on that bombshell. Shall I say it? Yeah, on that burning house bombshell. It's goodbye from me. Goodbye from Ed. And goodbye from you folks. Bye.
Bye.